Welcome back to Ghost Powered Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Shudder. And real quick before we get into this, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, because that really does help this channel out so much. For those of you not familiar with this channel, once a week I go searching through the popular streaming platforms and come up with 10 horror movies to recommend to you guys. This week, I went searching through Shudder and came up with 10 horror movies that I think you will enjoy. And with that, let's get to the list. Alright, kicking off this list is a little documentary called Spookers.
Copy, code down on the toilets. Could someone please clean it up?
We've had some customer who's got a really bad fright and crapped their pants.
So Spookers is a documentary filmed in New Zealand, and it kind of dives into this haunted house and all these kids, teenagers, and people that are involved in this haunted house. And it's a very like DIY type of situation where everything kind of looks homemade to a certain extent, but it's really cool seeing how it grew and became this big thing there and just the passion and everything involved. But then it also goes and dives into the personal lives of these people and how in a lot of ways this haunted house has kind of saved their lives, especially a lot of these kids, taking them off the streets sort of thing, giving them hope, whatever. Things like that, friends, you name it. And it's just a very cool documentary that I was really surprised on how much I actually enjoyed this. So if you're a fan of documentaries, this is definitely one to check out, especially as we cruise into this Halloween season. Now we're in September, so in my world, Halloween begins. I'm putting up the set in a week or so. I just can't wait for Halloween, and this is just a great little kickoff type of getting you in the mood type of situation.
When I first started working here, I was kind of scared of clowns. But now that I work here, I've become one.
Next, Creepshow, the series.
Who are you?
So Creepshow, the series is one of the best things on Shudder. And if you haven't checked it out and you're a fan of the Creepshow movies, or if you're a fan of something like Tales from the Crypt, this is a can't miss.
There are things in the corners of this world. Help me! They'll drive you insane.
Each episode, in a lot of ways, like Tales from the Crypt, has different celebrities involved, different directors, writers, things like that. But it just looks amazing. And it's so much fun. It's very well produced. It's got a lot of spookiness, but it has a lot of really cool practical effects and makeup. Just really has everything. Every episode is different and feels unique in one way or another. It's just a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you guys check this out.
You're in for it now.
Why?
It's the way it's supposed to be.
Next up, we go to a film created by the musician Glenn Danzig, and it's called Veronica. Bad Movie of the Week. Alright, so this is this week's Bad Movie of the Week, and god damn is this movie bad. I had heard a lot of people talk about how bad this movie was, and so I was going in expecting to, be like, this movie's a piece of shit, But until you see this with your own two eyes, or in my case, one, you cannot convey how bad this is. This is such a piece of shit, but it's strangely a lot of fun kind of piece of shit. Not only to make fun of, but just in general, there's just something about it that's fun and entertaining. It really is an entertaining bad movie that if you've never checked it out, especially if you got some friends and a few beers, this will be so much fun for you. Alright, next up is the first part of my double feature weekend and a movie that just premiered last week on Shudder, and that is called Superhost.
Do I look at you or at the camera?
All right, so this movie has Barbara Crampton in it, just like the second part of my double feature weekend will. So that's kind of the connecting tissue between these two movies. Other than that, there's not a whole lot these two movies I'm going to talk about have in common.
This superhost uses the name Betty Lou 52, has a nearly spotless record.
It's actually Rebecca.
Oh, so you're neither Betty nor Lou.
But anyway, so the first part of my double feature weekend is Superhost. And I went into this not expecting to really enjoy this all that much because the basic premise just sounds like something that's, I don't know, a little too cliche, I guess. But it's basically about this couple that have a YouTube channel and they go around the country staying at different Airbnbs and reviewing them on their channel, saying good, bad, whatever. And they go to this really beautiful little place out in the woods. They meet the owner and she is just an absolute fucking wackadoodle.
You think you come out this far to get away from all those crazy people, but then you get to this house and you realize that the host might be even crazier than those people you left behind.
And crazy shit ensues. So with that premise, I was like, yeah, you know, whatever. It's really one of those deals where one person in this movie just absolutely makes it a must watch, and that is the lady that plays this weird owner wackadoodle lady. And I'm not going to give anything away, but she is just so much fun to watch. And then also Barbara Crampton in this, who even though she doesn't have a very big role in this movie, she's still a lot of fun to watch and one that I think you'll definitely enjoy too. But just in general, this movie goes off the deep end, gets into some bonkers shit. But just don't forget that this is a small movie on Shudder, so it's not like some huge theatrical release type of deal. But for a small movie, this one's a lot of fun.
Look at her. She's harmless.
Next up is the second part of my double feature weekend, and that is Jacob's Wife.
How do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife?
Alright, so Barbara Crampton stars in this one. Unlike Superhost, where she just has a small role, she is the focal point of this movie. This is a very fun one, and one that I have been looking forward to for quite a while because I follow Barbara Crampton on Twitter. She's a great follow, and she's been plugging this for quite a while. I wanted to watch it on VOD, but I just never got time to check it out. So now that it was on Shudder, I was like, alright, now is a perfect time, especially with this list coming out, to check it out, and I'm so glad that I did. It is just really, really cool to watch her transform into this vampire situation.
40 years I've known this woman. Every day the same. Now, I don't know who I'm coming home to.
How much of that could I get?
You want the blood?
And it's got a lot of unique spins on the whole vampire lore. I mean, granted, it's a vampire movie, so there is a lot of the same. But there is definitely some unique twists and turns on this movie that make it feel fresh and unique, especially with the relationship between her and her husband, who's a pastor, and just him finding out eventually that she's a vampire and just how that all plays out and just all the other side characters in general. It's just a really cool movie that if you have not checked out, I do highly recommend you check this one out for sure.
How you gonna write this one up, deputy?
Domestic dispute. Non-violent.
All right, next we go to White Zombie.
Haiti, land of the voodoo, comes the most infamous cult of all.
Alright, so yes, this is the movie where the band White Zombie got their name. You know, Rob Zombie's original band, White Zombie? Yes, this is where he got the name for that band. Rob Zombie's a big fan of this movie as well as a lot of other classic horror movies, which I'm sure you know. And this is one of my favorite Bela Lugosi movies, one that is not talked about nearly enough. Most people know him from Dracula, which is fine. I mean, he's amazing in it. But he is also just brilliant and sinister and creepy and all those things in this movie. He basically runs this cult of zombies. He makes people into these weird Haitian type of zombies. They're a very different type of zombie than what you may be thinking because this is before George A. Romero reinvented what zombies were and they became The Walking Dead. This is much more based on the real legends and real situations of people being brainwashed with chemicals and this and that. They're just basically mindless drones that do whatever their master or whoever is controlling them bids. And it's very creepy and a lot of fun, and especially if you're a fan of black and white classic horror movies like I am, this is one I think is a must for your list.
Never magic so black. Bela Dracula Lugosi. as the master of the White Zombie.
Next we go to another classic, and that is Poltergeist.
The house looks just like the one next to it. And the one next to that. And the one next to that.
Alright, so most people know Poltergeist as a Steven Spielberg movie, blah, 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 but I like to think of it more as a Tobe Hooper movie. He does not get enough credit for this movie, and yes, I know the lore and the legend that supposedly he didn't have a lot of control and that it was basically done by Steven Spielberg with just kind of using Tobe Hooper. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Tobe Hooper was still the director of this movie, and I feel like he deserves more credit for that. But this is just such a fun haunted house movie, and with there being so many haunted house movies over the last few years with the Conjuring universe and all that stuff, this to me is one that I still think in a lot of ways is better than a lot of the ones we have seen, and is still just such a classic. So many amazing, iconic scenes. I just feel like if you have not watched this in a while, or if for some reason you've never seen it, this is one you should definitely watch.
Poltergeist. It knows what scares you.
Alright, next we go to one that I recommend all the time whenever I can, and that is Pumpkinhead.
Will it be alright? Should I be afraid?
So if you've watched this channel for a while, you know that Pumpkinhead is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's also one of those movies you gotta kind of chase, because it'll only be, for whatever reason, on a streaming service for like 1 month, and then bam, it's gone. It's off to another streaming platform. I don't know why this movie seems to do that so much, but it's always bouncing around. So whenever I do happen to find it on one of the streaming services, and especially if it's one I haven't said in a little bit, I always got to recommend it. But there's just so much I love about this movie. I absolutely love the design of the creature. I love the way it looks. But more important than anything, this is a horror movie that actually has a very interesting and complex and a lot of fun type of story that really digs deep and has weight and emotion and feeling put into it. It isn't just a slasher, you know, blood, gore, whatever.
What do you want, Ed Harley? Say it. You're looking for vengeance, vengeance.
There's actually a lot more to this movie, and I think the atmosphere built in this movie, just in general, this is just an absolutely awesome horror movie that, yes, has got a cult following, but still one that is not loved nearly enough, in my opinion. One that I think everyone should check out. So if you've never checked out Pumpkinhead, especially as we head into that Halloween season, definitely check it out while it's on Shudder.
It's gotta run its course. Now it begins. It begins.
Alright, next up is a crazy fucking movie, and that is Life Force. So I've heard about this movie for many years. A lot of it is because it's famous for having a very beautiful and very naked Matilda May strutting her stuff through a huge chunk of the first part of this movie. But it also is directed by Tobe Hooper. This is just one of those movies I had, for whatever reason, had just not seen until this last week. And I checked it out, and man, this is actually a really cool movie. The first part does move kind of slow, and you're just like, this doesn't feel like anything special other than, like I said, Matilda May. But then, as you get about a half hour into this movie, it starts to really kind of become interesting, and there's a lot of twists to this movie, and it becomes much more of an interesting type of situation, and something that has a lot of unique things that happen that are not stuff you see all the time, and just has a very kind of unique sci-fi horror feel about it.
She's destroyed worlds. That girl was no girl. She was totally alien to this planet and our life form, and totally dangerous.
I absolutely love the practical effects that are done in this movie when people are zapped of their power by these aliens. And just in general, this is just a very fucking cool movie that more people need to check out, and not just for Matilda May. this is a movie that I think is actually a hidden gem, and one that, if you've never checked it out, I highly recommend you check it out.
Be with me.
Life Force. The terror has just begun.
Alright, and last on this list is a documentary called Primal Scream.
Close your eyes. Breathe in and out. From the darkness comes a scream.
So Primal Scream is a very powerful documentary. It delves deep into fear. It's basically about this guy who talks about his fear of dolls growing up, and how he then eventually uses them in his life in different ways, and they just kind of continually pop up in ways, but he's always kind of had this fear of them, stemming from seeing the trailer of the film Magic that has like a ventriloquist dummy.
Abracadabra, I sit on his knee. Presto, changeo, and now he is me.
And it's just talking at the camera in this trailer, and it is very, very creepy.
It was just this spooky wooden face talking straight at me.
But it just kind of embedded this fear in this guy, and he just delves into that and breaking down his fear and how it's played out. But it really just delves into fear in general, and how we have these deep-seated fears from childhood for different reasons. It's actually a lot deeper than I'm even making it sound, and it is very, very interesting. It's one that if you're a fan of documentaries, I think this is definitely a must watch.
Presto, changeo, and now he is me.
What was it that's been burnt onto your primal scream?
Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Please leave your comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. And also, if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this at least 2 times every week, I also want to give a massive, huge thank you to my patrons. Yeah, you guys, because your support seriously means so much to me. And if you would like to find out about becoming a patron, the link is down in the description. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.